Thank you, Allison, and thank you for your attendance today. I'm going to speak briefly about some of the gun and firearm discharge offenses that have occurred since Saturday, so Saturday, Sunday, and today. The City of Toronto has had a total of 11 types of gun or firearm discharge offenses. Out of the 11, 13 victims, 13 people that have been hit by bullets. And out of the 11 occurrences, 4 have had either 2 or more people that have been victims, and 33% of these shootings that have occurred in the northwest end of the city. I'm going to speak specifically to the District 45 club shooting. I find this one very bothersome. This morning at about 6:51, the police were called to a person shot at the area of 1300 Finch Avenue West. When they responded with fire and paramedics, there were 5 people that had been shot by firearms. They were taken to hospital. I can tell you that the scene itself, we've got shell case inside and shell cases outside as well. There are also a lot of people that were there, and what we're trying to do right now is we're appealing for witnesses for that one. We think this one is very solvable. There were a lot of people that were there, and some people, no doubt, were afraid. We're asking you to contact the police, specifically 31 Division at 416-808-3100, or if you want to remain anonymous, to call Crime Stoppers at 222-TIPS and help solve this particular one. And having said that, I will take some questions.
Can you give us any sense, Chief, of what actually happened inside the nightclub? Was there an exchange of gunfire? Was it one gun? What happened?
It's too early right now. There are more questions than answers with that particular investigation, which is why I'm here. I find it disturbing when you've got over 100 people and someone would be brazen enough to pull out a gun and start shooting. It's very early. It's very solvable because we have a lot of people that were there and people that were there just to have fun and then ran out as victims because they were afraid of getting shot. And then, of course, we have 5 people that are shot. So it's really early right now, but I can tell you we have retrieved shell cases inside as well as outside, and we've got a lot of resources on this one. We will definitely be in good shape to solve this one if we have witnesses come up and help.
Chief, it's Kelly Lanahan from CP24. Wondering if you can talk about the genders or ages of those victims in that nightclub shooting.
No, I don't have that on me right now, and I think that hopefully by tomorrow we'll definitely have more information. We've had quite a few shootings over the while. This is not the City of Toronto, and when we look at all of the shootings, and some of the shooting occurrences, I can tell you 4 of them are not people shot. Some are when they put them in the air and shoot. But when I've got 13 people right now in the city that have been shot, that have a bullet in them, I've got concerns for that, and I can tell you that we will be putting additional resources in specific places that we think will help deter and reduce the gun violence that's occurring in the city right now.
Mayor John Tory is once again calling for a handgun ban. Where do you stand on that?
I'll let the politicians work on that one. I've got people that are shot, and I've got people that are shooting people. I want to use my resources and all of my energy to solve these cases and bring them before the court systems. Anything that does remove a handgun, it's a good day for the city. So there's no real silver bullet. There's so many aspects of why people are doing it, but at the end of the day, people are getting shot, and I've got concerns about that and its immediacy.
What do you say to people in the city who are afraid? I mean, because it's happening not just in one area. We've got daylight shootings, areas that normally don't have shootings. What do you say to people who are afraid to be in the city? Well,
I'll be fair and say most of the shootings are occurring at nighttime, and a lot of the places and some of the people that have been shot aren't necessarily 9 to 5, wife and kids, home. If you're kind of in that stratosphere, then the odds of anything happening to you are very, very slim in this city. But when someone's shooting with 100 plus people in a club, that's not a good day for us, and that's a person I certainly am very ambitious to working with the community, working with the city to solve that one.
What can you tell us about how the security is handled within those clubs in terms of metal detectors or any possible way to make sure, surveillance video for instance, to make sure that people are obviously safe when they're out there? Well,
we've got an opportunity to review the DVR. There was a DVR in there. might not solve it, but it will certainly help us, I believe, because there was some activity going on in the bar. I can't speak to how private sector folks run their things, but I can tell you as a citizen, I can walk into a bar and look at it and say, I'm not staying here tonight. This is not going to be my place. But having said that, people can go to wherever they want to go to. I would exercise caution if you're walking into a spot and it doesn't feel as warm and fuzzy as you would like it to, or your friends or your family.
Chief, how many shooters? Sorry, go ahead.
We are obviously seeing a situation this weekend where we're not just seeing incidents that happen in areas that we would hear about more often, but we've also heard of one area, a couple of areas, the Bridle Town, obviously, one of the more striking ones this past weekend. What do you say to people about, I guess, the frequency and the volume of gun activity we've seen and where it's been occurring this weekend?
Well, guns do not have direction. They are where they are. People bring them to. And, I've been following the news, too, and that's a specific address in the Bridle Path. It's not, it's an area with the Airbnb, and there have been complaints and a lot of ongoing negative history with that, and it seems like that is being resolved. That particular investigation, I feel very good with, and I'm hoping that we have an opportunity to solve that one. We're looking for, I believe, 3 suspects for that, and that one's very promising for us.
And Chief, in terms of the North York nightclub shooting, how many shooters do you believe there were in that case? And why aren't police on scene there right now? Because we know people are going back trying to get their belongings that they may have left in the chaos.
I won't speak to the investigation. I will say that the forensic piece was very thorough, and it was done quite well. There was no shortcutting with the investigation. So if they've stopped any type of forensic type of investigation, then I'm satisfied with it. And it's not based on time. It's based on the evidence that you have at that moment and how you deal with the evidence.
How many shooters do you think there were there?
I would be doing a disservice to guess. I don't like guessing, especially in this seat. It can get me in a lot of trouble.
Can you explain just a bit more about the number of occurrences that you said have happened over the weekend? What exactly you mean by an occurrence?
Firearm occurrence. So if somebody's calling the police and saying, we've heard sounds of gunshots, that would be an occurrence. We would attend. And out of those 11 that have occurred over the past 3 days, 13 victims have occurred. So 13 people have been shot.
So 11 different scenes.
11 different occurrences, yes.
Would that mean scene? Like an occurrence would be a
Yes.
fully different
Yes.
place? Okay.
Sure.
And are there any connections that you're seeing between those occurrences?
Early on, right now, there's nothing that seems to indicate that could transition later on. But right now, based on the evidence, there's nothing that has been brought to my attention that says that there's connectivity with these particular occurrences.
And in terms of this year compared to last year, could you, I know last year was a particularly bad year, but all of a sudden we're having this string of shootings over the weekend now. How are you feeling this year compared to last year?
Well, it's not how I feel. I can speak to the numbers this year versus last year. Prior to getting into this weekend, we were lower. We were lower with our victims. We were lower with our occurrences. And so my folks will definitely be having a look at this tomorrow to see what the numbers are, see where it's put us. I will say that this is not a normal weekend in the city of Toronto. I do not anticipate in a 3-day or a 2-day span where I'm going to be talking about 13 people shot. This is not Toronto. And rest assured that I'll be providing the resources where they need to be to solve these cases, and also working with various stakeholders to see what we can do to help reduce the gun violence that's happening in the city.
Chief, is there something more that you could be receiving from, for instance, the provincial government or federal government in the way of support to provide more resources?
All 3 levels of government have been very supportive. When it comes to gun violence, it's nonpartisan. People do not like people with guns shooting other people. So the cooperation has been there. I've sat down with the mayor and the councillors on many occasions, speaking to what we need to do that's Toronto-centric in order to reduce the gun violence that's happening in the city. It's not just apprehension. There's so many moving parts. I've spoken over and over about the 3 buckets at the front end, and then when it's the enforcement piece, ours, and then of course the back end when 90% of people are getting released. What's going to happen? It's pretty circular in its behavior. So from the enforcement perspective, I've got a lot of folks, by the way, the men and women of Toronto Police Service did a fantastic job, sworn and civilian, this weekend. It was very very busy. We responded to the calls very appropriately and timely, and some cases we're able to solve, and others have some traction to it. So it's a lot of hard work and effort put in by the members, sworn and civilian, and so from the enforcement piece, I'm getting a lot of cooperation from all levels of government.
And Chief, you say this is not Toronto this weekend. In fact, we do have a lot of people from out of town and out of the country.
Yeah.
Do you think that that has any ties to, the festivals we've been seeing with OVO and Veld and the Caribbean Carnival, as well as the victims? Do you know if you can say if they are Torontonians or Canadians even?
I've heard bits and pieces from people not from the city that have been involved in one way or another with some of the occurrences, but I don't want to, I'm not going to cast a light on the Caribbean Carnival. When you look at the day, when you had millions of people here and it was safe and everything was fine, we can't let these 11 occurrences define that because of this event, this is what's happened. They're not sanctioned by the Caribbean Festival at all, or the Caribbean Carnival at all, but it did increase the density of the nighttime. We had a lot more venues that were open, a lot more visitors that were here during the night, and no doubt there's a potential that may have been a factor that may have added to this. I don't know, though.
And in terms of the 13 people shot, do you know how many of those were Torontonians or Canadians, or if they may have been from the country?
No, I don't think I do a count that way, but a victim is a victim at the end of the day. We'll have more information on some of these investigations tomorrow, for sure.
And historically, we've been seeing guns come from the U.S. Do you know where the guns are coming from and what the biggest challenge is that's facing your force and how to deal with that?
Well, whenever we talk about multi-agency, it's that collaboration piece. So it's not just enforcement, it's intelligence, it's border security, border patrol. There are a whole host of partners that we have when it comes to firearms that are crossing the border, that are making it here. I've got to tell you, I'm more interested in the people that are willing to use the guns, that are going to navigate in the city with a gun, ready to use it. That's my bigger concern. That is my bigger focus. We do have partnerships, though, that have helped us tremendously with curbing some of that, but we've got a long way to go. I'll take 2 more questions.
Chief, did you have any suspect descriptions that you wanted to share?
The one that the District 45 was the one that I definitely wanted to get out there, Wendy, and I have no descriptions at this point in time. That's my concern. We will definitely, we're starting to get some more pieces to the puzzle coming in. Once we start looking at the DVR, we'll definitely have a lot of traction there, and you'll see that we'll be able to hone in a little bit better. Hopefully someone does call Crime Stoppers to get this ball going, but if not, I think just investigatively, because this was not done in a vacuum, I think that we'll have an opportunity of getting an idea of who did what.
And Chief, how big is the market for Canadians that are legally buying guns and then illegally putting them back on the streets?
There is a large market for it. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but there is a large number for that type of activity. You're talking straw purchases, right? Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry, really quick.
And then you were pretty gracious, so I'll let you ask the final question. Yes.
Thank you. It's not just smuggling, though. There is 3D printing of guns. People can make guns at home nowadays. Is there any way you can get on top of gun problems with that kind of technology that you're facing?
I think I just wanted to introduce this to you guys. Yeah, if we're going to be looking at a border and saying we've got to stop that, when the reality is with technology, it can be done in the basement in a matter of time. It's already being done. We've got a bigger picture. We have a much bigger picture. And so I'm hoping that when I speak to those 3 baskets, that people take heed to that, because anyone that's motivated to make one, anyone that's motivated to use one, that's a concern we have to address if we're going to get this right. Okay, you, sir, last question. Thank you.
Nicholas Johnson, thegunblog.ca. Just zooming out from this weekend, I've been told that in the past, Caribana tended to be a high crime weekend, not only for shootings, but fights, thefts, disorderly conduct. Is Caribana still a high crime weekend?
I've never done a Caribbean festival stat. A weekend is a weekend is a weekend, and we right now we've got a situation where 13 people are shot. That's my focus, not on the venues or what may have caused. I just want to deal with the facts. Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. This concludes today's news conference. Thanks.
Nicholas Johnson from thegunblog.ca. Straw purchasers, there's not a lot of info, but if you want, I can share something with you. Sure. There's been 2 people charged per year.
Straw purchasers?
In Canada, across Canada.
Okay.
Do you want me to send you something?
That'd be great, yeah.
That's all. That's not official data. That's
She was giving her the last one. Being gracious. Then he gave you the last one.